Razorback Nation, welcome back into this afternoon's episode of Razor Recap. And man, do we have a fully loaded episode for today for you guys with a lot going on in Arkansas sports this weekend. Before we dive in, you can't forget to Arkansas's very own Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. Check them out today if you're in Northwest Arkansas. And check out the Core Brewery Tap Room where you can get Scarlet Letter in all its various flavors. And also, we are brought to you by Jared's Kickin' Sauce, the perfect blend of sweet and spice to transform any meal. Whether you're grilling burgers, roasting chicken, or just any snack-worthy dip for crackers, Jared's Kickin' Sauce makes bland food good and good food great. Don't settle for ordinary. Kick it up a notch with Jared's Kickin' Sauce, your go-to sauce for every occasion. Grab your bottle now at kickinsauce.com and let the flavor party begin with baseball season here out in the hog pen. Perfect sauce to bring out there and put on whatever you're eating this baseball season. So it's going to be fun. And before we dive into baseball, we got to recap quickly. Arkansas basketball, unfortunately, goes on the road and loses to Texas A&M yesterday. But before we dive into some stats, one thing we got to mention is, man, those uniforms yesterday Texas A&M wearing were hideous. I don't know whoever designed those, but whoever did, they need to be fired.
Yeah, I've never really liked the color maroon and mixed with anything else, but yeah, that's pretty hideous as well. I remember, and this may be off the subject of those uniforms in basketball, but I remember it was years ago when I was a kid growing up, and Mississippi State, and this was before Texas A&M was in the SEC. Mississippi State and Texas A&M were playing in a bowl game in college football. In the snow, and they both had white helmets, and they both wear maroon. I had no idea who was who. So yeah, it was pretty bad.
Fair enough. It's like you have several different shades of red and maroon in the SEC if you think through it, because you look at it, the maroon especially. You got Texas A&M, you got Mississippi State, you got South Carolina. That's a kind of maroonish shades, and man. And then you even have, the different shades of red between Arkansas's Cardinal, Alabama's Crimson. You got Georgia's red.
Yeah, I know when I wear Arkansas hat, because, I live in Mississippi, and I wear Arkansas hat, and some folks are like, oh, you're an Alabama fan? Like, no, this is the Arkansas A. So, no.
Let me tell you, that's why I've had to make sure I have some hats that have specifically the Razorback logo on it, because anytime I found out that same situation, I'll go on vacation, wear one of my Arkansas baseball hats with the A on it, and the number of times I'll be walking by and some random person will just be like, Roll Tide or something like that, and I'm like, no, thank you.
Blue Pig. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, but as we dive in here, Arkansas loses this on the road by 69-61, a 8-point lower scoring game. And what was a sloppy game, and Arkansas was still in this game. Tough game from different fronts. You didn't see the performance out of Big Z that we've seen the past 3 to 4 games. Nelly Davis back to kind of not doing a whole lot. Thiero still struggling. You saw some decent minutes from Jonas Adu as far as not necessarily lighting up the score, but giving you some good minutes on whether it be rebounding, affecting shots, things like that. Brazil, 14 minutes, no points, struggled there. And if you watch the post game, it's one of those where Cal was talking about, he keeps telling the team, we've got to, we've had these big wins. We beat Kentucky, we beat Texas, we stayed with Alabama, and he's like, we've got to push through. We've got to get one of these over one of these top teams like this. And today was a great opportunity. He was telling, the press how he was telling the team, he was like, he's got to hold these guys accountable. They can't be okay with being close. He was telling them that it's not okay. And he was talking about how some of the guys, don't know who specifically, but he said are a little fragile, but he's having to kind of hold them accountable, but also still kind of, get them there, because it's like they're so close, and you feel like if they can, get right over, knocking off one of these big teams like this, you know, it could ignite something. But before the game yesterday, Arkansas was in the Lenardi's. They were in the last four in, so they were in the tournament. I haven't necessarily checked to see post the game, but it's we're still getting close. This was a road game. It's a game where on the road, against an A&M team, this loss doesn't necessarily kill you, but you'd love to have this win on your resume as we're getting closer to, tournament selection and things of that nature.
Yeah, what was it that Cal said? He said that was your chance. I think that's what he told the team. That was your chance. You had to take it, because you're getting to the point in the year where you're right on that bubble, and some of these teams' bubbles are going to start bursting, because you got to come out with big wins, or and SEC tournament's going to play a factor too in some of that. It always seems like every year teams come out of nowhere and win their tournaments that aren't supposed to, and knock a few few other teams out of the tournament. I think I saw somewhere where somebody on Twitter said they need to expand the tournament to 78 teams. They were thinking about it. That sounds awful. Like, don't fix something that's not broke just to get a few extra teams in there. I mean, the NIT is still there. Not that anybody wants to play in that, but right. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it just seemed like yesterday, anytime we got close or tied the game, we would just let it slip right back away. We couldn't take advantage. Like Cal said, they couldn't close it out, because that was a great opportunity to steal a big win on the road.
Yeah, that would have been a nice quad one win that you could have got. Like he said, it was your chance, and some of these guys not playing great, it doesn't help. But I still feel confident that this team's going to get there. We're sitting at the 4-win mark in the SEC play. If you can get 2 more, that's what Lenardi said he thinks will get you in. I'd feel much better if we could get maybe 3 to 4 more. But you're running out of where those going to come from, because you look at going into this week, it's not going to be great. You've got Auburn this week, which is not going to be fun at all. And then on Saturday, you've got Missouri coming to town. So that one's maybe winnable since it's here. Missouri doesn't play great on the road necessarily compared to how they do on the road. So you saw yesterday Auburn get the win over Alabama by 9.
Yeah.
Which was where game day was at. But, if you look at some other scores around the league, Florida takes care of South Carolina 88-67. South Carolina remains winless in conference play. Tennessee beats Vanderbilt by 5, getting that win back where they lost at Vandy on that buzzer beater. Texas beats Kentucky 82-78 by 4. So Kentucky's still struggling. Big Blue Nation, it's like they have some injury issues just similar to how we are, and it seems like they're struggling to cope with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what karma gets you. I mean, you talk all this noise all season long about how you're the best there is, and Calipari this, Calipari that, like some kind of crazy ex-girlfriend. That's what happens. But it's funny that we have to play Auburn now. I wish we would have already played them and got that out the way. Confidence level's pretty low on that one, because Auburn is a very dangerous team, and it doesn't seem like anybody's going to beat them on a neutral floor. That is, I just don't see it happening. But you never know in March Madness. But from what I've seen the last few years, when UConn did, they looked like the best team, and they ended up winning it. So I would be highly surprised if anybody else besides Auburn won it all.
Yeah, Yeah, it's one of those things where right now you can very much easily tell that, they're the top team in college basketball at the moment. And like you said, things can get weird and change around conference tournament time, and then the NCAA tournament, of course. But right now, it seems like it's not even close. Um, Final three games and happened yesterday in the SEC. Mississippi State beats Ole Miss 81-71. Missouri beats Georgia 87-74, and LSU gets its second conference win, beating Oklahoma 82-79. So now we don't have to be that only win on their conference schedule that they've had so far, which is nice. But you hate to see them beat Oklahoma, a team that you lost to at home. But at the end of the day, I still think Arkansas is going to be able to get there. We'll dive into some of the stats really quick. We mentioned it. Your leading scorer yesterday was Carter Knox. Breaks out and has a great game, scores 17 points, 7 of 9 from the field, 3 of 4 from deep. Has 5 rebounds, 1 block, and 1 steal as well in 36 minutes of play. It was, kind of a breakout game, if you will, for him. We've seen him constantly improve a little bit by bit as the seasons went on. And, he had himself a day yesterday. Unfortunately, we didn't get the win, but you like to see the improved play from him. Big Z is your second leading scorer, 13 points, 3 of 5 from the field, 2 of 3 from deep, 5 of 6 from the line, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 4 blocks for Big Z in 20 minutes of play. But yesterday was a game very much where he was back to being a defensive liability. It seemed like when he was in the game, A&M's bigs were just having their way with him, whether it being, going in and getting a dunk or just beating him and getting the score. And then Theo, 10 points, your third leading scorer, 2 of 6 from the field, 1 of 2 from deep, 5 of 6 from the line, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 block, 1 steal, and he did foul out of the game in 31 minutes. So, this was kind of a back to earth game, if you will, with the hot play that we've had, between beating Kentucky, going and beating Texas, coming back home, making it a game with Oklahoma or Alabama, and then now you go back on the road and kind of that energy and intensity didn't seem to be there yesterday.
Yeah, so the Oklahoma loss, and them losing to LSU yesterday, and then the LSU, when we lost to LSU on the road, we had that game. We could have won that game too. So unfortunately, when you look at those 2 losses we have to those 2 teams, they could leave us out of the tournament at the end of the day. That's the only unfortunate thing about that. But yeah, I mean, Carter Knox has been playing well. He played well yesterday. Gave this team a boost they needed when everybody else was kind of struggling. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We go as Nelly Davis goes. If he's shooting 3 for 14, we're going to really struggle. Or struggle to win. That is, we still played. We were right there in the game. We could have won the game if the ball would have bounced our way a couple of times. But he's got to make some shots there when he's taking on them shots. But it's frustrating when you see him play the way he can play, and then you go and have a game like this. But it is what it is at this point.
Yeah. And an interesting thought that, I saw Cal mention, and maybe it's, a tactic he's using to get, Theo kind of focused and back to how he's playing. He mentioned in his press conference yesterday after the game about how he might have to start playing some lineups of having Big Z and Jonas Adu playing together, just for having Adu out there defensively to be able to hold down kind of down low and be able to match up with some of these other teams' bigs, but then you still have the scoring ability that you get from having Big Z out there, having him be able to expand the floor, being able to shoot from inside or come off those pick and rolls and, score that way. Because you look at Jonas Adu, he played 19 minutes yesterday, scored 4 points, made his only bucket, was 50% from the line, 2 of 4, He grabbed you 3 rebounds. He gave you 3 assists, and he also had 1 block and 1 steal in 19 minutes of play. So, we're seeing him gradually feel like he's getting back towards where we saw him in Tennessee. He's got a long way to go, but it's good to see this improvement in that he can come out there and actually help you, and not just come out there, give up 2 or 3 fouls, and then that's all you get from him. And then Billy Richmond, 6 points yesterday, 2 of 6 from shooting, hits both his free throws, gives you 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal from him in 24 minutes of play. So those 2 guys are continuing to, play more minutes. 24 minutes from Billy Richmond's double what we've seen him play just even 4 or 5 games ago.
Yeah, Richmond's going to get more playing time as he goes. He's a spark plug, so we need him in the lineup. He just plays with 100% energy. Reminds me of the Devo Davis early years. And then, Adu and Big Z being in the lineup together is an interesting one because Big Z is more of a stretch. He stretches the floor, can hit threes. So it could take a little pressure off of him because you're really asking him to do stuff that he's not the player. He's not that kind of player. I know people say, "Oh, he's 7'3", he should be this player," but he's just not. He's not a guy that's going to get you 15 rebounds a game.
I was about to say, he just didn't have the build for that.
That's what I'm saying. But he can shoot the ball, which is a very important thing to have in this game. So to have them in the lineup together is interesting. I mean, we only have eight or 9 players on the roster. So, I mean, to try something different like that would be, it could work.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. And I mean, if Cal thinks that'll help, plus, I mean, if that maybe gets Theo back where he can get refocused and get to be playing like we saw him all season, kind of being the second leading scorer in the SEC as a whole. His past 3 to 4 games has not been great. He had a great Kentucky game, played decent against Texas, but then especially these past 2 against Alabama and against A&M yesterday, just didn't really show up. I mean, he scored you 10 points, but out of a guy that you're normally used to 16, 18 points, but 20 a game, he's just – I don't know. I don't know if he's still feeling something from, being sick, or if he's kind of, when he was sick, that kind of took some effect on his conditioning. I don't know, but we've got to have that play out of him down the stretch, especially if we're hoping to, get a few more wins and, hope to get in the tournament and, one of those last 4 spots in, or, I'd love to be a little bit higher seed, but you're at this moment in time, you're probably looking at a, 10, 11 seed, maybe 9 if you can get, 3, 4 more wins.
Could be a 12
that's a stretch.
I mean, you never know.
But yeah, I'm interested to see what we do, especially when you got to contend with Janiyah Broome this week. That might be a smart deal, trying to get Adu out there to help you defensively and, reduce some of the liability that Big Z brings. It's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm not going to hold my breath. I mean, that would be a very Arkansas thing to do, to somehow find a win against Auburn on the road. Like that, I don't know. That would be something that would be very surprising. I think if you won that game, you're in the tournament.
Oh, there's no doubt you're in the tournament if you win that game. Now, I'm not saying go out and lose the rest of the games, but
right,
if you win, you beat number 1 Auburn, which at Auburn, which nobody has done, you're in the tournament.
Well, only one person's done that. Florida beat them.
Florida, okay, yeah, Florida, but they're a top 5 team. They're in the tournament right now too. But us on the bubble, they're putting us in after that.
Yeah, I would love to see that happen. Not, like I said, not going to hold my breath, because that Auburn team is for real this year. And I don't see this team unless somehow something drastically changed. Calipari draws up an amazing game plan. It's just not happening for the Hawgs, and hopefully they get through that, come back and get refocused for Missouri on Saturday, which would be another great win at home against a ranked team that, has been pretty decent this season after, turning things around after 0-18 last year. So we'll see what happens. Again, Arkansas falls 69-61 yesterday on the road at Texas A&M. and what was a sloppy game, but Arkansas kept it close. So you got to think if they would have played better, some guys showed up, they'd probably get the win here. And we're talking about an Arkansas victory. They shot 41% from the field for the game, 33% from deep, and 73% from the line. So not bad shooting nights, just, certain players like, Nelly Davis, 3 of 13 up for the game, 7 points. If you have him play a game where he scores 18, 19 points, you probably win this game. So hopefully they can get refocused because they got a big matchup on Wednesday this week. But we'll have to wait and see what that holds, and it'll be interesting to see the results of that. With that being said, it's time to talk some Arkansas baseball. And, before we do, perfect snack to pair with Arkansas baseball as you're out the ballpark. Smacking sunflower seeds. Smacking sunflower seeds hold bold flavored jumbo sized snacks that packs a punch with unique flavors like cinnamon churro, garlic parm, backyard barbecue. Smacking sunflower seeds are crafted in small batches to ensure top quality. Plus, with only 380 to 540 milligrams of sodium per serving, they won't leave your mouth feeling like sandpaper. You can order now at smackingsunflowerseeds.com and enjoy free shipping over orders of $50, plus a free cinnamon churro sampler for every purchase over $50. So don't settle for ordinary. Grab a handful of Smacking Sunflower Seeds and elevate your snacking game. You can use Variety Sports on all caps, receive 15% off that order, and go check them out today. And with that, Arkansas finally, the much anticipated opening weekend got here. We played 2 on Friday because of some weather issues, and we played. They moved the game yesterday up earlier, but on Friday, you got your first look at one Gabe Geckel, who is your Friday night guy, your ace this year. After we saw him in relief last year, and do pretty well as a freshman. Well, his debut this year did not disappoint whatsoever. In his first game for Arkansas, pitched 5 innings, had 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 hit on 78 pitches. Didn't allow any runs, faced 18 batters, and had a heck of a game. This is what we expected from a guy like Gabe Geckel this year, kind of moving into that Friday night ace type role after you lose your entire starting rotation from last year. What are your thoughts on his outing yesterday or on Friday?
Yeah, I mean, he looked sharp. Cold weather, wind blowing in, looked really good. Only gave up that 1 hit, walked 1 batter. So I mean, he had command of a lot of pitches, and he even said in the post game that he couldn't feel some of his pitches. So to not be able to feel some of his pitches and still put up 5 innings and 7 Ks is pretty impressive. So he didn't even have his best stuff, and really looked sharp out there. So I've said all along, I think Geckel is a future Major League Baseball player. Like Hagen Smith was. So I think he's just going to get better and better as he goes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's like one of those things, the announcers and, some of the, Phil and Bubba were talking about on the radio where, at some point in the middle of the, 3rd, 4th inning or so, they could tell like you said, it was cold. Some of his pitches, they said it seemed like he struggled a little bit with his fastball in the middle of his outing, but, to struggle with your fastball and still, like you said, 7 Ks, only 1 walk, 1 hit. Great, starting debut for one Gabe Geckel, who is going to be, I think, a guy that is going to be able to lead this team just like we expected.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you talk about opening weekend. You saw 3 other pitchers in this game, in a game that went into extras. Will McIntyre came in for 2 2/3, relieving Geckel. Allowed 2 hits, 1 run on a solo shot. 3 strikeouts for him with 37 pitches. You saw Parker Coyle come in for a 3rd, allowed one hit, and then Christian Fouch came in the final 2 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, and 32 pitches for him. So, you got guys come in, take care of business, and, your relievers. You saw your kind of first glimpse of Christian Fouch and, that closer role. We saw him play that last year and had, of course, the sub 1 ERA last year in his outings as a closing guy. Thoughts on these other three guys that came out and gave Arkansas some innings after Gabe Geckel?
So I thought McIntyre threw really well, despite giving up that one home run. He still pitched really good. He looked really good. I saw that fastball that Dave Van Horn was talking about. He does look like a more seasoned, and you could just tell that he's been around for a while. He just has that presence on the mound. And Parker Coyle is a guy that we've talked about that was just mowing down people in the scrimmages. So I'm not surprised that he was one of the first guys out of the pen. He actually came in again in another game we're going to talk about. So it seems like he's a guy that Dave Van Horn trusts now, that could be a guy to get people out, whether it's lefties or what. Because I think when he came in the next game, he's supposed to face a lefty, and Washington State pinched hit for a righty, and he still got him out. So Parker Coyle looks really impressive. And Christian Fouch, he didn't really have his best stuff. I mean, he still looked good through 2 innings, but surprisingly, he didn't strike anybody out in 2 innings. So he still looked good. But I mean, it's cold. You're not going to have your best stuff out there in that kind of weather. And Fouch even mentioned last year, I think they asked him, hey, how do you feel about being the closer this year? Is it more pressure? What's different about it? And he said, look, last year I would come in the 7th inning right after Hagen Smith. So if you don't think that's pressure to be good after him, then this is nothing. So
Hey, that's a fantastic response, and I don't blame him there. It's like, this year you have to follow maybe a reliever or two instead of, a guy like Hagen Smith where, it's like, to his point, no sweat this year after having to face a guy like Hagen Smith. So, yeah. And then when you talk about offense in this game, Arkansas wins it 3-2 in extras. That's just this first game. Not going. It was first game, playing somebody other than yourselves. It was cold. You had a few guys kind of able to score some runs here. You had Charles Davalon scored a run. You had Ryder Helfrich and Justin Thomas. One of the biggest plays of the game in that 10th inning, Iredale. He gets the hit that scores the winning run for you. And we'll talk about it later. And that man had himself a heck of a weekend as well.
mm-hmm.
But what was your thought on these batters in this first game?
So my thoughts are, number one, he's still playing with the lineup, trying to figure out, because the lineup we saw game 1 was the lineup that he used all scrimmages for the starters, and then we saw a different lineup for game 2. So he's still playing with the lineup to figure out where to put people and who to play where. Number 2, it was not baseball weather. It was freezing cold. Wind was blowing in. Maxwell and Iredale both hit absolute missiles that would have left the ballpark any other day. Another thought was the guy that we faced on the mound, which nobody – a lot of people talk about, JUCO this. It's not, JUCO is not the same as it was 10, 15 years ago. College baseball has a lot more depth. It's a lot more spread out. Plus, NCAA made that ruling where if you go to JUCO, you still get 4 years eligibility and D1. So you're seeing a lot more guys go to JUCO. And this guy that we faced first game was 12-0. I think he was 12-0 with a 1.99 ERA in JUCO last year. Won pitcher of the year and everything. So, I mean, he wasn't no pushover. Plus, he's throwing a lot, and a lot of people don't understand this. I mean, our guys are facing 96, 97 mile per hour pitchers all scrimmages long because that's what they're going to face in the SEC. And then you come to face guys like Washington State that are throwing 85, 86 miles per hour. It's going to be a little bit of adjusting period, and you can tell what happened in game 2 is a different story.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you even talk about this whenever we see Arkansas play some of those midweek games where your pitchers aren't going to, have that same velocity. They're going to be pitching, low to mid 80s, maybe upper, have one guy that pitches upper 80s to low 90s. That it's just like, I've heard them talk about it where, that change in speed, it really throws a hitter off when you're used to seeing, mid to upper 90s, and then you go to seeing mid to upper 80s. That's a significant difference for these guys. I remember a season or two ago, same thing happening. I believe it was in a game against like Grambling. They didn't have anybody that could just throw absolute heat, and we were struggling to hit the ball because you're having to adjust a lot from a batting perspective of your timing, your swinging, and everything to go from hitting something mid 90s to hitting something mid 80s.
Yep. Yeah. The timing can be a little off. And another thing, Washington State, they're not a bad baseball program. They've hired a great coach. They didn't have a great season last year, but it was a part of it. It was a part of a rebuilding process for that coach, trying to get guys in that he wanted, clearing the house. They also got some really new baseball facilities. So, like they even showed them on the broadcast how nice they looked, and they're nothing like ours, but they're still nice baseball facilities. So that's a program that's on the rise, and I wouldn't be surprised if they have I'm not saying they'll be good this year. I mean, you never know. I mean, they've got some good ball players on that team, so they could make some noise, but I could see them building a pretty good program there in the next few years.
Yeah, it's one of those things I heard them talking about it on the radio where, like you said, a new guy in charge. I think that he said they had 6 returners last year for this entire team. So this whole team is very much new. And so that's, yeah, when you got a new coach kind of rebuilding the program, like you said, cleaning house, things like that. So, I wouldn't be surprised to watch out for them in a year or two, potentially contending, not necessarily for maybe a championship, but being more competitive and around the college baseball landscape.
Yep.
With that, we'll jump into game 2 that also happened on Friday, and this was very much a different story than game 1. Zach Root gets the start in this game. A guy that we were talking about before the show. All these starters you've seen this weekend, if you would have looked their numbers all side by side, these guys, nearly identical stat lines. Root goes 5 innings, 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 hits for him, and with 75 pitches. He allows 1 run in this game. But, man, you've got a guy like Zach Root that comes out with not only is he a lefty, but has 1 violent delivery as a pitcher.
Yeah, I've talked about it leading up to opening day, how he was my most excited pitching transfer that we got, because this guy has been good. He was great at ECU, and just being able to see him Friday, in a Razorback jersey pitching for us was phenomenal. I mean, out of the 3 starters we had this weekend, he looked the best out of all of them. He had the best stuff out of all of them. Just looked great. That breaking ball is nasty. He had everything working. I mean, he throw a breaking ball in there that keep him off balance, and he throws a 90-something mile per hour heater in there. I mean, that's almost impossible to hit. He looked phenomenal. I've been a big Zach Root fan for a while now, and I'm glad he's here in Fayetteville because, and somebody made a comment on Twitter saying, hey, he needs to be our Friday night starter. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. It's not a bad problem to have Zach Root pitching on Saturdays. So this pitching staff is so deep. You got Gackle going Friday night, and then they got to face Zach Root the next day, and then facing the Gage Wood or Bottle Cheese the next day. It's not a bad problem to have. And having Zach Root, and think about this, because this postseason is what really matters. Think about having Gackle game 1, and then you go to Zach Root game 2, and you win both of those, you're in the driver's seat. That's critical when it comes to beating teams in a 3-game series.
especially when you think about it too. Um, Even regional play, it's like
Mm-hmm.
with the depth that we have, if you do have a situation where for some reason you don't win game one, with the depth we have between also having Gage Wood and Bottle Cheese, you know that helps you if you do have to kind of battle back through you know the bracket, if you will, having to win all those games. It just gives you additional depth there. But to your point, one thing to consider with Zach Root coming over from a program like ECU, we talked about it before. Arkansas is one of few programs, um, you know, that plays with a high level, and so does East Carolina. He comes from a
Mm-hmm.
program where he knows about the high pressure situations and winning baseball. East Carolina is a fantastic program up there, and you always see them in postseason play. So they're
Yeah.
a program that he's familiar with winning, and playing some of these top tier teams. So coming over to Arkansas, I mean, it just to me it's a great fit for him where he wants to take his play to the next level and actually have not nothing against ECU, but have a shot to potentially go further throughout the uh potentially College World Series and postseason play.
Yeah, I mean, they even had a pitcher drafted in the first round last year. I mean, they've produced some really good players out of that program. Always compete. They've always, anytime you see them in postseason play, their atmosphere out there is electric, and they're always competing. So yeah, Zach Root is has always been good, and he could be a high draft pick after this season with how he pitches with us.
Yeah. I mean, if we're being honest, as Zach Root, if he would have stayed at East Carolina, you're probably looking at him being your Friday night starter for those guys.
Oh, no doubt about that. And he
And
could be a Friday night starter on some other SEC teams too right now.
and like it goes back to what you said, it's not a bad problem to have to see him, trot out there as your Saturday guy. Um, Very, very fantastic to have that
Hmm.
kind of, staff depth there. Um, you had two other guys come out in this game, in a game that was, a run rule game. Arkansas wins it 14-2. You had Aiden Jimenez, a guy that we talked about, transferred from Oregon State, guy that Dave said was very much ahead of schedule, and they originally thought they'd have him maybe midway through the season. Well, lo and behold, he's able to get some innings in some of the scrimmages, and he's ready for opening weekend. And you see him come out, only throw 14 pitches, but came in for an inning, allowed 2 hits, 1 run, and against 4 batters, but comes in and gets the job done. And is, he's getting there, getting some innings under him as he's slowly going to be able to build and go a little bit longer. But a decent first outing for him. And then Tate McGuire, a guy that, you didn't see a ton of last year, had some rough opening outings for him last year, early in the season, and didn't really see him the rest of the year. He came in for an inning, gave up 1 hit, got 1 strikeout on 7 pitches, but a guy that could potentially be key in some relieving role down the season.
Yeah, Jimenez, he pitched several games in the scrimmages. We thought he wouldn't be ready for opening day, but it turns out he was ready. He's still not 100%. Dave Van Horn said he was only going to pitch 1 inning yesterday. That's what he ended up yesterday. It's Friday. That's what he ended up pitching, was 1 inning. And he pitched in the low 90s, and Dave Van Horn said that his velocity will probably go up as the season goes on, because he's just 12 months removed from Tommy John. So like I said, he's still not 100%, but it was good to see him out there. He still looked pretty good. And then Tate McGuire, he kind of got lost in the rotation last year. And, he went to the Cape Cod this past summer and was an all-star out there. So he has the capability of being a really good pitcher. He was very, very highly talented out of high school. And so McGuire could be a guy that you see more often this year. So I'm excited to see him more. He looked good as well.
Yeah. So in 2023 for Oregon State, Jimenez was 5-2, had a 5.68 ERA in 22 appearances. He started 1 game, He had one save. He pitched 38 innings. And so, I mean, he's a guy that understands high-level baseball. Had 35 strikeouts that year. In, those 22 appearances, Oregon State, they're one of those teams that they're like Arkansas, Oregon State, Oklahoma State, Vanderbilt, LSU. They're all those teams that you expect to see in the top 25 preseason every year just because of the program they've got built. And Arkansas is very familiar with Oregon State. They're not a program that
unfortunately.
Right. And so to be able to steal a guy from them, if you will, like Aiden Jimenez, to come over and, be part of this team this year, I think that speaks words for a guy like him.
Yeah, unfortunately, when a player gets injured, they could kind of get lost there for a little while. Teams can kind of just, have to recruit and get other players in. So you could see a player like that transfer, which we're lucky to have him in as after he transferred because he's still a really good pitcher. And you never know. Sometimes he may come back from this Tommy John and be better than he ever was. So, yeah, I'm excited that he's here and looking forward to seeing what he can do this season.
Yeah. And you flip to the offensive side of the ball, completely different game than what we saw in game one. Arkansas puts up 14 runs in this game. You had a little bit of a different lineup, like we talked about. You saw a different lineup than you did in game one. You had Rocco Pepe, shift from first in game one to he played right in this game. No digs in this game. You had Kahio Aloy, Vahiva's brother, DHing in this game. You saw Michael Anderson play first in this game. Cam Kozel shifted to second. No Souza for the second game. Helfrich caught this game. Becker came in to pinch run, but a little bit different lineup in this game to, like you said, Dave's still toying and kind of playing with this lineup a little bit. But if you just look down the stat sheet, if you will, you had Davlon 2 for 5, scoring a run. Vahiva Aloy, scored 2 runs. Rocco Pepe 1 for 1, scored 2 runs. Carson Bowles came in for Rocco, went 1 for 1 and scored a run. Brent Iredale, the guy that Hobbs has been hyping up all season, kind of showed why he's got the type of hype around him in this game. Comes in 3 for 4, scores 2 runs, 4 RBIs in this game, and helps put up several of these runs. He was walked once. Then Cam Kozel, a guy you talked about you liked as well that could be competing with Souza for some playing time over there at second base. He comes in. This game gets to start, goes 2 for 4, scores 2 runs. Justin Thomas, 1 for 2, walks twice, scores a run here. Completely different offensive game than what we saw in the first one, and I think this is probably more of what you can expect to see from this team this year compared to what you saw in game one.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of flexed their muscle in that one, showing the capability that this team has. The thing about this lineup, top from bottom, when you have Davlon leading off, he's got speed. He's got that funky batting stance, but I love it. Kind of reminds me of like Craig Counsell type. If guys know who that is, but yeah, I mean Charles Davlon, he had 2 hits in that game. Gets on base,
2 hits to 3 RBIs.
Yeah, 3 RBIs. And another reason that is you have a guy at the bottom of the lineup like Justin Thomas that's getting on base, and that's why I preached all scrimmage long leading up to opening day that's a guy that's got to be in the lineup because of his speed, his ability to get on base.
It's like you get him on base and you turn the order over to, a guy like Davlon or Vahiva Aloy. I mean,
yeah, and not only when he gets on base, guess what he's probably going to do? He's probably going to steal second. So that's huge. And I think, and even he looked good defensively too. I remember there was a ball hit. I think it was in game 1, and it was kind of going towards the left field bleachers, and he running in, tried to make a play on it, and he missed it. It went in and out of his glove. Somebody in the baseball chat was like, "Oh, he looks scared out there," and then he makes a diving catch a few innings later. It's like, does he look scared now? It's just like those comments like that really get on my nerves. But anyway,
I was about to say it's opening day. It's opening weekend.
like, man, come on. It's 20 miles per hour. That ball is drifting out there. Like you saw, there was a ball hit to right field that looked like a no-doubt home run, and Pepe just started running towards the fence, and he turned around, and all of a sudden the ball got stuck and just fell. And I'm like, that's just what's going to happen, man. It's extremely hard to play in the outfield when there's 20-mile-per-hour winds. But, yeah, and you look at, Davalon, then you got Eloy hitting after him. And Eloy's, he's going to have some at bats where you're like, oh my goodness, like that ball he hit in the last game we had was just absolutely destroyed. And then he's going to have some at bats where, what are you swinging at? But I mean, he's just that capable of player. And then you got a guy behind him that I really like that is unfortunately has a little bit of a hamstring issue right now. But this guy hits the ball extremely hard. Maxwell is I don't think he played in this game though.
Yeah, you had Rocco Pepe in this game.
Pepe was in 3-hole, yeah, and he hit that double. He hit that double in the first inning game too. But yeah, I mean, Pepe's another guy that hits the ball extremely hard. And then, behind him is the man that I've been talking about for a while now that is just a difference maker. The reason I'm so excited about him is because he just has that it factor. You can tell when you watch this guy play that he's one of the best. Just baseball comes easy to him. And another guy he reminds me of that we had wear a Razorback jersey was Kerstead. It just came easy to him. Now Kerstead was different. He played in the outfield. He's a left-handed hitter, but I'm talking about how the game just flows, and it just looks like he's just, it's just easy. And, he hits the ball extremely hard. He's got the bat speed that you see on Iredell is really phenomenal. He's not going to strike out much. He struck out twice in the first game, but I think it was a little bit of first game jitters. And he even talked about in an interview with him that he really hates the cold weather, but it didn't affect him in game two. Because he's from Australia. So, I mean, he's not big on the cold. But yeah, that lineup, and then you've got the other Eloy brother just smashing that ball, just obliterated that ball in the seventh inning to walk it off to run rule. And that's another thing about this team, because you talked about Cozell, and I told y'all from the get-go that the second base position was not guaranteed, because Cozell is a guy that gets on base and he hits the ball. He's a gamer. And some guys are just gamers. Reminds me of Peyton Holt, where, you may not see him just go off in scrimmages and stuff, but when it comes to game time, that boy can play. Yeah, I mean, the depth of this team, that's what's great about this team is you have so many guys competing for spots right now, and it's a good thing. That brings out the best in people.
It's that good competition, iron sharpens iron, if you will. And
Exactly.
it's like, like you said, Cozell's going to give Souza a run for his money at that second base spot. So, hopefully that kind of makes both these guys, continue to improve their play. Glad to see you made it in, Joe, right at the perfect time talking some baseball. Right?
Welcome in, Joe.
But, yeah, like you said, it seems like you look through this lineup, you said if you're an opposing, team, it's like you're looking down this lineup and you're like, all right, where's my drop-off? You don't really have that because, like to your point, the other Eloy brother, Cahillo, you saw the reason why he DH'd as a freshman at BYU last year. He's got that bat. Yeah, sure. Maybe he needs some development in, his fielding, whether it's he's playing outfield or, infield. Like Dave said, they're still trying to find a spot for him and where he'll fit in best. But when you have a bat like that's why you see him playing and getting an opportunity here. But yeah, he had the bomb that, quote unquote, walked it off um, in game 2 on Friday. And yeah, I mean, you saw Michael Anderson get the shot at first base. He's a guy that you'll probably see, sprinkled out throughout some series and some midweek games where, you know, you saw Rocco at first base. He struggled with some fielding in the first game, but again, it's not baseball weather. It was the first game. You got some jitters. It's like we're going to be saying that a lot, especially in February. It's not great baseball weather. And then so you
Well,
saw.
on that play, Dave even said that he tried to. They've been working with Helfrich because what happened on that play was Helfrich picked the ball up and threw his sidearm, and it kind of sailed a little bit on Pepe. And Dave even just talked about in his post game presser that they've been working with Ryder. He got a strong arm, so sometimes he likes to pick that ball up because he made a great play. That bunt, picking it up and getting it to first. But he kind of threw it sidearm and it sailed a little bit because we don't have a 6'4" guy over there at first base. Pepe's a lot shorter than that. But yeah, that's my most interesting thing right now is what's going to happen with first base, because with the way that Cozell's hitting, the way that Aloy can hit, who's gonna, because you got to have, not only do you have to have a glove there, but you got to have a bat there. So it's going to be interesting to see who ends up getting that first base spot. It's a good problem to have. I'm excited.
Yeah. I mean, some of the things that I noticed, you look at, like you mentioned, Rocco's only 5'10". The other guys that you saw play first base this weekend between Michael Anderson, you saw Reese Robinette get some action in the game yesterday, was both those guys are 6'3". And the one thing I noticed is I don't think Vahiva is very much used to a shorter second baseman, because he had a couple throws that sailed over Pepe's head when he was out there playing as he was trying to make that throw to first, and a little too tall for 5'10" Rocco.
Now, I will say, I'm looking at it here because I've got a Peyton Stovall poster. If I can, yeah, it's over here. It's that's when he played first base his freshman year with us. And Peyton Stovall is not very tall either, but Peyton Stovall is just a hell of an athlete. He's got a phenomenal glove. So that's why he played over there. And he's another guy that on that team, his freshman year, they were so stacked, and he had to get his bat in the lineup somewhere because he could just hit. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because this first base position, there's so many guys that can play it. Anderson's a guy that's probably got the best glove out of all of them. But he's a guy that's not really going to hit for a high average. He can hit the ball out of the park. He can hit it a mile. But it's maybe a matchup thing. Who knows? It's not a bad problem to have. I'm excited to see all of them play, and I mentioned this too whenever we saw the lineup for game 3, which we'll discuss here in a second. Because a lot of people were like, game 3 lineup came out yesterday and everybody was like, oh, well, where's Aloy at? He hit a home run yesterday. Where's Cozell at? And I'm like, I told him, I said, you can't really, when you see the lineup card, you can't really be mad about it because all these guys are exciting to watch, every single one of them. So, like last year, you could get mad at the lineup card because there are some guys in there that were kind of automatic out sometimes. But
Yeah,
this year, that's not the case.
exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned it. We'll jump into it. So Arkansas wins game 2, 14-2, and in 7, Cahill walks it off with that big home run. And then you get to a game 3 yesterday in a game where it's not necessarily super cold, but it was wet. So you got to see how these guys performed in some damp, wet weather. Again, not great for baseball, but you still had some people show up and show out for it, especially that hog pen crew. But Arkansas wins this game 5-2, and you saw Gage Wood. He was get the start in this one between him and Bottle Cheese. Dave said he wasn't sure which way he was going to go with these two. That they're battling a lot right now. And so, but in this game, you saw Dave want to go right, left, So you saw Gage Wood get the start here. Again, we talked about those stats. You see them almost identical. 5 innings pitched for Gage, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, 2 hits. He had 77 pitches, allowed 2 runs in this game, but still come out and did his thing. And is a guy that I'll be glad to see him starting anytime he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, that's a career high in strikeouts too, 7. So he looked good. The fastball had a lot of movement on it. It kept rising as it tailed in the zone. Because when you're in the batter's box, for everybody that's played baseball before, you can understand this. And you see that fastball coming in, it looks like it's going to be a strike, but it keeps rising. And so they were swinging at it. So I mean, he looked really good. He honestly didn't have his best stuff, and still looked great. And Dave Van Horn even mentioned this in his press conference was, Gage is a guy that's just been steadily improving every year that he's been here, from his freshman year, sophomore year, and they've already mentioned that they've been preparing him to be a starter. This is another interesting thing about this rotation is, and I'm excited to see Bottle Cheese tomorrow, because he's another guy that's a big 6'3" left-handed pitcher that's just looks like a mammoth on the mound. So I'm excited to see him tomorrow, and this is an interesting battle here of who's going to get the 3rd spot. And another interesting thing is, the guy who wins this position, whether it's Wood or Bottle Cheese, has to face next Sunday a team that in Michigan that looks pretty good right now. They just beat number 2 Virginia on Friday. So, we're going to learn a lot pretty early.
Exactly. Yeah. These guys, I mean, Gage Wood, you saw him towards the tail end of last season get some starting nods. I mean, I believe he started late in the season last year. One of the games against A&M.
He started the very last game of the year against Southeastern Missouri. He was the one that started that game.
And so he's a guy that, like you said, Dave's been preparing for this. He's a super talented guy that's gotten progressively better and better. But then after him, you saw 3 guys in relief in this game. You saw Dylan Carter, Parker Coyle again, and then Carson Wiggins. So Dylan Carter, he's a guy that, he was expected to be a key reliever last year, and never really seemed to get fully back from his surgery, Tommy John surgery he had last year. But this year, he's a guy that is a great veteran to have, a great guy that you can run out there and relieve. He comes in for an inning, 2/3, allows 2 hits, gets 1 strikeout and 23 pitches. A guy that you can just come out there and get some outs. A guy to shoot up some innings. And he's a guy that I'm glad to see back. We had him on the show as a preview last year. So great dude. Glad to see him healthy and getting back into the scheme of things, if you will.
Yeah, Dylan Carter's always been a guy that you can trust. You can tell Dave trusts him a lot, to throw 2 innings in a game, close game. It wasn't a blowout. It was a close game. I'm happy to see him healthy, because he's a guy that good things happen when he's out there. A lot of people don't know that yesterday he got the win, and he's now 8-0 in his career at Arkansas. He has never lost. So great things happen when that man pitches. So I'm glad to see him back out there, and he's going to be a big part of this bullpen. Like I said, he's a guy Dave trusts, veteran, and he's going to be a guy that can get in, that's going to come in and close situations that to get some outs for us. And then the other guy, was it Parker Coyle that came in next?
Yeah, you had Parker Coyle come in after Dylan Carter, go an inning and a third, allow 1 hit, 1 strikeout, 16 pitches. Another guy, like we said, was talked about how he had an insane some scrimmages this in the fall, and then coming into the spring, guy that has some just nasty stuff. He pitched in that first game on Friday. He comes out yesterday, gives you an inning in the third, and a guy that you can tell Dave's worked with him. Matt Hobbs has worked with him, and he's a guy that could be a key piece of this bullpen this year?
So I've always raved about Matt Hobbs, not only because he carries my name, but he's one of the best pitching coaches in the country, if not the best. The thing that he does is he normally, a lot of times, he'll take one guy that has been good but not great, and he just makes him a phenomenal pitcher. Whether they develop a new pitch, they fix some mechanical issues, because he did it with Kevin Kopps, and he did it with Hagen Smith. Hagen Smith just became an absolute monster over time. Kevin Kopps the same way. And Parker Cool is a guy that kind of reminds me that this could be, because what I saw when he came out the other day and he threw his first couple of pitches that were sliders that were just absolutely disgusting. So, I don't think he's going to have to carry a load like Kopps and Hagen did on their teams, because really they were only one of the few guys in that bullpen that were having success. I think this team is so loaded that we're not going to have a guy pitch multiple innings like that and carry a team. But yeah, Cole looks like a guy that's going to be almost unhittable this year, because he just looks nasty this year. And I could tell that by looking at the scrimmages where he would just come in and just strike everybody out and be almost unhittable. He looks the same way now. He looks disgusting. So I'm excited to see Cool. And that's another thing about Cool is he's the only pitcher so far that's come into 2 games. So that tells me right there that he's going to be a guy that Dave Van Horn trusts to get hitters out, maybe multiple times a weekend. And then you talk about the next guy, Carson Wiggins, man. We've raved about this guy's stuff. Jackson obviously played here, and his older brother got drafted by the Cubs. And, Wiggins looks to have better stuff than his brother did. And, I talked about this leading up to opening day, was when we talked about the pitching staff is, who's going to be the closer. And I told you it's probably going to be 2 guys, Wiggins and Fouch, because obviously Fouch can't pitch every day, and he already threw 2 innings the day before. So you see Wiggins, he looked great. Another guy that didn't, I think he struck out the last guy maybe. So he only had 1 strikeout.
Yeah, he came in, went an inning, allowed 1 hit, got 1 strikeout in 20 pitches. But, I mean, it's like you said, we knew his brother was good. He comes out, and he's got a great set of pitches. Mm-hmm. But one fact that, the baseball team tweeted out about, his first 4 pitches, all 100 miles an hour.
That just don't make no sense.
Exactly. You got a guy that come out.
It didn't even look like he was even trying to throw 100. I mean, he looked effortless.
I was about to say, not to mention with a guy, he comes out at 6'5", 215. You're late in the game and you see a guy come out, you trot out your closer, 6'5", 215. That you don't like to see that on the mound. He's a big boy that, it makes sense why he can pump 100 miles an hour, 4 straight pitches with that size.
Yeah, and he's not draft eligible. I mean, he's 19, so he'll be draft eligible next year. So we got him for 2 years. So, you'll probably see him close a lot of games this year. Next year, you might probably see him as a starter. Phenomenal talent. I'm excited that we have him on our team, because we're going to need him to close some close games out. We're going to play a lot of close games in the SEC, and I don't want everybody freaking out when our offense doesn't score a whole lot of runs when we're facing really good pitchers on the mound, because it's going to be some low-scoring games. It's just the way the SEC rolls. That's the best conference in the country.
Exactly. And, part of it is like, a guy like Wiggins is, we talked about it too. He's a guy that they're surprised that they got to campus.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy that, he turned down probably an opportunity to make some money and go, start playing in the minors through some leagues and stuff like that. And he wanted to play some college baseball, and no better place to come and develop under Dave Van Horn and Matt Hobbs. I mean, he's a guy that, they saw, he saw firsthand what they did for his brother,
mm-hmm.
and getting him where he's at, drafted by the Cubs and everything. And now he gets the opportunity to come work with that same coaching staff. You gotta love it when you get, those families that have all the talented athletes there, getting all of them to come here. I mean, you saw that in football with the Henry brothers. You're seeing it in baseball with some guys from Arkansas and things like that. So
you got the Lloyd brothers. You got, it helps when your older brother comes and pitches here, and you can kind of, convince him to go. Because if my older brother told me to go there, that I'd probably do the same thing.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing. As soon as I saw last season Cahillo enter the transfer portal, I was like, I'd be willing to bet he's coming to Arkansas to play with his brother. I was
Absolutely.
Like, why would you not, want to come play in the SEC, but also get to play with your brother? That's an awesome experience to get to play high level D1 ball.
Not just play with your brother, but I mean, you're a long way from home, and you're not only going to play with them, but you're probably living with them in a dorm or apartment somewhere. You spend all your time with your brother. It's a big deal.
Plus, makes it easy travel for his parents not have to go to two different places either. Joe says after weekend number 1, this team should move up to top 3 for sure.
So probably not top 3, but I could see us going to number 4 because it looks like Virginia is going to lose their second game. They were down 7-0 to Rice in the 7th inning last I looked. So it looks like they're on the ropes to lose their second game of the weekend, which would mean to a 2-ranked team. So which means they would fall. But it looks like number 1 Tennessee had just absolutely destroyed the ball. I mean, they were playing not number 1 Tennessee. Texas A&M is number 1. They're playing Elon, which they were on the ropes Friday night, but they came back and won. Looks like they're going to sweep, so they'll stay number 1. Number 2 Tennessee. Number 2 Virginia is the one that lost 2, and then number 3 is Tennessee. And they put up a bunch of runs this weekend, but they were playing Hofstra. They were playing School of the Blind. So I'm not really, too impressed by that. So they'll probably move up to 2. And who was number 4? LSU?
I don't think
LSU was 3 and Tennessee was 4. They swept this weekend too. So they're going to move up to probably 3, and then we'll follow suit behind them to number 4. So I don't see it's going top 3, but I can guarantee you 1,000% we'll be number 4. We're not going to fall behind because the poll comes out tomorrow. Wait, I'm pretty sure they come out on Mondays. Yeah, Mondays. And we play a game tomorrow. So regardless of what happens in tomorrow's game, it's not going to affect the poll for tomorrow because it's pretty sure it's already going to be out in the morning before we even play.
I was about to say, and that's what I was going to say too. We got to remember we still got one more game tomorrow to play as well.
Yeah, the weekend's not over quite yet.
I was about to say we got the series win. We got the series. Now we're going for the sweep tomorrow.
Yeah, I wish we could have played today. That would have been nice, but might have froze out there.
Yeah, 100%. But we talked about this fantastic pitching. You jump to the offensive side of the ball, not super high numbers. Arkansas wins this 5-2. Nothing like game 2 on Friday night. But you just saw some guys absolutely smash the baseball. Guy that we talked about in game 2, Brent Iredale, easily the star of this game. He goes 2 for 3 with 2 home runs in this game. Scores 2 RBIs, walks once. This man just hits baseballs. After 3 games, you look at him. He's a guy that 3 games into his Arkansas career, he scored 4 runs, has 6 hits and is hitting .545.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you could, I'm not going to say he's going to hit 400, but he's going to tell that line most of all season. Because number 1, he's going to walk a lot. Pitchers are not going to want to pitch to him a lot, which is going to be crucial for the guys that hit behind him. And number 2, he should have 4 home runs right now. The ball he hit on Friday was absolutely destroyed. Dave Van Horn said it probably should have hit the back of the center field wall, whatever you call that thing. And then the other one was a home run that they got wrong on the review. Looked to me like the ball hit above the wall, on the fence above the wall, and not underneath the yellow line. Because if the ball hits on top of the yellow line, it's a home run. So he got kind of robbed out of two, but the two that he hit for sure that were no doubters. I mean, he absolutely crushed those balls.
And they almost hit in identical spots as well.
Yeah. So
deep in left field, right by the bullpen seats there in the hog pen.
Yeah, so hog pen, get ready. He's a righty hitter, so he's going to hit a lot out to left field. So get ready for a lot of Iredell home runs, and I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks the home run record at Arkansas.
And then, I mean, another guy that was due one that we talked about, the Eva Loy, gets his first home run of the season in this game. The other Loy brother can't let little brother outdo you in opening weekend. So he was like, "Let me just get my own home run here." He comes in,
it was
1 of 3, hits a home run, has 2 RBIs in this game.
Yeah, and it was a very impressive home run. I mean, he hit that ball right center field and just absolutely crushed it over 400 feet. But yeah, and he kind of struggled this weekend. He was getting on base. He got hit. I think he got hit like 3 times.
He got hit for sure twice on Friday.
Yeah. So he wasn't having a fun weekend getting hit by them pitches. But I know he was happy to get on base. But yeah, but it was nice to see him get a home run out of the way early because last year he kind of took him a while to get going. So I'm excited. I'm pretty sure we'll see him in the lineup tomorrow. So I can't wait to see what he does tomorrow.
Yeah, just to give you perspective there, Vahiva's home run went 414 feet to center right field at 105 off the bat. You look at Iredale's home runs, his second one, 401 at 103 off the bat, and his first one, 391 at 109 off the bat. So these guys are just absolutely smashing the baseball. Kahio Aloy, his home run Friday night, 386, 110 off the bat.
Yeah. We mentioned before that Aloy hits the ball harder than anybody on the team. That 110 exit velocity is normal for him. So, yeah, you're going to get ready when he's up there.
Exactly. You look at down through the rest of the lineup. You saw Zane Becker get the start in this game catching. You saw Helfrich come in later in the game as Becker got a nice double, and then you had Gabe Frazier come in to pinch a run for him, and then Helfrich finished this game out. But Zane Becker, 2 of 3 with 1 RBI in this game. He's a guy that we talked about being a little bit of a surprise. Kind of beating out, if you will, Elliot Peterson, the other guy that transferred into Arkansas in the catching room. You got Ryder that's going to be your for the most part everyday catcher, and then Zane Becker got the call here, and he came out and performed well. Justin Thomas went 1 of 3. You had Nolan Souza. He struggled these first few games. He was one of those mentalities of like you'll see some games you'll be like, man, he just absolutely crushed baseball. And then yesterday was one of those perfect examples of, man, what are you really swinging at there? A lot of low pitches he's swinging at and making it look like he has a golf swing. But I think as we kind of get into the season, that'll get all straightened out.
Yeah, Becker's very impressive. Really looks good up at the plate. We saw in the scrimmages that he was really performing well and pretty much stole that number 2 spot from Elliot Peterson. Hopefully we do see Peterson a little bit this year. I'm sure we will, but it looks like Becker is gonna get that role and probably start a few games this year like he did yesterday, because he can hit. And he's not bad in the field either. He's not as good as Helfrich back there, but he can really hit the ball. So a freshman up there, it really impressive. Gabe Frazier, not a good sign for him getting picked off at second base. And that's not the first time that's happened. That happened in the scrimmage. And Dave Van Horn was kind of yelled at him. He cussed. He said, what the F are you doing? Dave Van Horn don't like that, silly mental mistakes like that. And Gabe Frazier's a very talented freshman. We'll see him at shortstop a little bit, probably midweek games this year. Maybe, I don't know. Lloyd started every game last year, so we'll see Gabe Frazier at some point. He's a talented freshman, can hit the ball really well, but he's got to cut down on them mental mistakes on the base pass. And then we talked about Souza. Unfortunately, had some really bad at bats. They were very bad. Swung get some pitches in the dirt. Obviously, it's a changeup, so it's kind of breaking as it goes to the zone. So it's not an easy pitch to lay off by no means. But the same thing that affected him last year was the inside pitches that he couldn't lay off of. So hopefully that, it was just the first few games jitters and he settles in. But there's no waiting game this time because there's guys that can play that are proven they can play. But Souza's very talented. So I'm hoping that he can have a sophomore surge because, there was games in the scrimmages that he just went smooth off. So that's just the kind of thing you're going to see for Souza. You could have bad games, and then you have games where you just absolutely crush the ball. But, it's just one of the things where we've got a guy like Cam Kozel that's highly talented, and I'd hate to see his bat left out of the lineup.
Exactly. If you're Souza, it's like, add a little bit of, pressure to be like, hey, I've got to step this up, or, if there's a guy right behind me, they can easily just, get the playing time in the same spot I am. But like you said, Gabe Frazier, that kind of rundown he had yesterday, just like you said, got to eliminate those mental mistakes. That was not didn't get a great jump on that. Not sure what he's thinking in that one.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing that.
What made it worse is it was 2 outs. You don't get picked off on second base with 2 outs, man. It's a cardinal sin.
Exactly. Ellie Pearson, he's a guy that I wonder if we might see him tomorrow.
That's a good question. I don't know. It's so early in the season that, Helford didn't catch Friday. They didn't play today. Well, I'm sorry. Helford didn't catch. God, I'm so confused on the days. He didn't catch yesterday until the 7th inning.
So he caught both games on Friday.
And we were
didn't
off
really
today.
Catch Saturday except for a couple innings.
So
and then nothing today, yeah.
I'll tell you this much. I'll be very surprised if Helford's not in the lineup tomorrow. I don't think we may not see Peterson until we play Grambling in midweek. I think Grambling's the first midweek game that we play. Maybe
that sounds about right. Let's see.
That may be when you see Peterson, and I don't know. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. You may see him pinch hit tomorrow or something like that, but it would shock me if Helfrich's not catching tomorrow with having an off day today. He didn't start the last game. So be very surprised if Helfrich's not in there tomorrow.
Yeah, first midweek game, like you said, is going to be Grambling on Tuesday, the 25th, after we get back from Arlington.
Yeah. So, and Grambling's one of them teams where you can either score 20 runs against them or, you score 5 or 6. It's a hit or miss with them. You never know.
I was about to say, because you're going to play them twice this season, spread out. You'll play them, like we said, the 25th, and then you won't see them again until April 1st in Little Rock at Dickey Stevens Park.
Yeah, I remember we played them in Little Rock last year. That was they actually had a pretty good broadcast of that game, shockingly. So yeah, that's a minor league baseball stadium, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
It used to be.
Yeah. So, Arkansas Travelers.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting because anytime we play Grambling, I always think about that game, and you can watch the game on YouTube. I can't remember what year it was, but they had one pitcher in there that was just throwing meatballs, and our guys were just destroying the ball. We scored like 28 runs or something like that. You could even see the pitcher like shrugging to his teammates, like, "What do I do?"
It's like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Yeah. So, like we said, so far weekend, maybe not what some Arkansas fans are hoping, but don't get too worried. It's opening weekend. These guys some jitters. It's cold, not baseball weather. You'll get to see more of an idea of what you can expect next weekend down in Arlington. You're not playing out in the cold. You're playing in a major league ballpark. Excitement's going to be high. That adrenaline's going to be running. It should be a good weekend next weekend. Like we said, Arkansas's got one more game tomorrow in this series. As they're going to go for the sweep. That first pitch will be at 12 o'clock tomorrow on SEC Network Plus. If you're like myself, I'll be streaming that while I'm at work. So hopefully we'll get that sweep tomorrow, and then we'll get ready for the college baseball series down in Arlington in the AMG Bank College Baseball Series. Staying in the diamond, we'll jump to the other diamond for Arkansas. Arkansas softball had a heck of a weekend as well down in Ruston, Louisiana, as they went down and played a tournament down there. This is weekend number 2 for them, as they got things started last weekend. They're ranked 13 coming into this weekend. First game against Louisiana Monroe, they win 11-2 in 6 innings. So, they run rule this game. You saw Peyton Barnum for Arkansas get the start in this one in the circle. 4 innings for her, 2 hits allowed, 1 run, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Cam Harrison comes in, 2 innings for her, 1 hit, 1 run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts in this game. And Arkansas was just smashing the ball in this one. You had Reagan Johnson, 2 for 5 for 2 runs in this one. Ella McDowell, freshman in this one, 2 hits for 2 of 3 for 2 RBIs. Bree Ellis, 2 hits, 2 of 2, 1 run, 1 RBI. She just comes in and hits the ball for Arkansas. Catcher Kennedy Miller in the sophomore season, we saw her last year, and she got dubbed anytime she had a big hit that it was Miller time. She went 1 of 3, scored a run, had an RBI. And Reagan Kramer, it just continues down this lineup. She goes 1 of 2, scores 2 runs. Courtney Day, DH'd for Arkansas, 1 hit or 1 of 2 for 1 run and scored 3 RBIs in this game. This Arkansas lineup is just loaded up and down this season for Courtney Deifel.
Yeah, man, they look really good. Very impressed by them so far. And somebody on Twitter said this may be a year that we see both teams in the College World Series.
Yeah, love to see that.
That would be incredible. That would be really fun to watch. So this team's very talented. The women's team, women's softball is loaded just like in men's baseball. The SEC is loaded in both. So, and then we get Oklahoma this year too, and the SEC, which they have a powerhouse over there. So, I'm excited, man. They look really good, and it's going to be interesting to see. Not hoping it happens, but it was going to happen eventually. Which one of them lose first? Who's going to be the first to lose? Because they both look pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those that it's going to be fun to watch both of these teams. Like we said, they won that game 11-2 on Friday, and then their second game on Friday, they beat Louisiana Tech again 9-1. And this one, you saw Robin Heron come into the game, run ruled this game in 5 innings. She pitched all 5 innings, allowed 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 7 Ks in this game for Robin Heron. You know what to expect out of her coming back from last year. In this game, Bree Ellis, once again, 2 for 3, 2 runs, scored 3 RBIs. She's just smashing the baseball this season. Kennedy Miller, 2 for 3, 2 runs, 2 RBIs in this game. Those are 2 of the girls on this team to keep a big eye out for. They got a big bat. As you jump over to game 1 of yesterday, they beat Southern Miss 12-4. Reese Berlin went 3 2/3 for Arkansas in this one. 4 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, and then Lexi King comes in for the final 2 1/3, allows 1 hit. In this one, Bree Ellis' stat line in this one's insane here. She goes 2 for 3, scores 2 runs, 5 RBIs in this game.
Yeah, she's a demon. She's a beast.
Reagan Kramer in this game, she goes 2 for 2 for 2 runs. Like, it's similar to what we were talking about for baseball. It's like you looking up and down this batting order for Arkansas if you're an opposing pitcher, and you're like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, there's no drop off. All these girls can come in and just smash the ball. Ella McDowell, the talented freshman in this game that's playing third base, 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored and an RBI as well. So it's like, you've got her and then Bree Ellis right after her. So like, it's like these opposing pitchers, they can't catch a break with this Arkansas lineup.
No, they're super talented up and down the lineup. Bree Ellis and Miller Time, they are, it's very deadly. So I'm excited to see them, what they do in the SEC, because we could be a top 10 team by the time that rolls around.
Exactly. And then today, you saw them play Southern Miss today. They win in their first game 12-3 in this game. You saw Cam Harrison get the win in this one. She went 3 2/3, allowed 3 hits, 3 runs, 5 walks, 8 Ks in this game. And then Burnham follows up with a final 1 1/3, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts in this game. You look at the batting order once again. You saw a little bit. Bree Ellis, 2 of 3, 1 run, 4 RBIs. She is consistent so far in this season. Ella McDowell, no hits but scores a run, and then has an RBI as well. And Arkansas continues to impress here. Italia Rijo, 2 for 3 with 3 runs and 2 RBIs in this, or 2 doubles. You've got Davidson, 2 for 2 for 2 runs and an RBI. Like, again, we keep saying the same thing over and over again, but it's the truth. It's like, what do you do if you're a team and you're going up against this Arkansas lineup?
Yeah, I can't wait till they play some of them top teams to see what they do to them, because they're smashing the ball against these other teams. And Southern Miss, I know they have a good baseball program. I'm not sure about the softball team, but yeah, it's impressive to win as in the matter that they're doing right now.
Yeah. Blake Taylor says, glad to see you here, Blake. He said, scary thing, Burnham, King, Harrison are all 3 freshmen in the circle for Arkansas this year, and we also have another elite pitcher coming in next season. What Courtney Deifel's done with this program has been amazing. They continue to, year in and year out, continue to improve, get to these top recruits, these elite recruiting classes, the elite players coming to Arkansas, and it's just a matter of time before you see this team in Oklahoma City, their version of Omaha, if you will, vying for a title.
Yeah, she's turning around into a powerhouse. We're pretty much turning into a baseball and softball school.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I was about to say, and then the final game today, they beat Louisiana Monroe 10-0. Another run rule game where you had Robin Herron get the call, and this one in the circle. She goes all 5 innings, only 2 walks, 11 strikeouts in this game, on 71 pitches, with a .74 ERA.
That's nasty, man. You can't argue with that. That's unstoppable.
I was about to say, and it's like we were talking about, it's like Ellis didn't have the best day. She scored 1 run with 2 RBIs, but then you have Wyckoff that came in 3 of 4, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, 2 doubles here. So it's like when you have one person, like, I don't want to say have an off game, because you look at what, Ellis did the previous 3 we talked about. She had a little bit of a break today. Somebody else stepped up, rightfully so.
Well, look, if you're driving in 2 runs in a game and that's considered an off day, you're doing pretty good.
Exactly. Compared to, some of those other game stats that she had, it's going to be insane to see what she does throughout the season. Just to kind of give you an idea, throughout this season so far, Bree Ellis, and 23 at bats, she has 14 hits, 11 runs scored. She has 22 RBIs, 7 home runs, and is hitting .609.
Is there another player with those similar numbers out there? Because that's ridiculous.
That would be a tough one to find, because
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we kind of expected. We saw that last year. She transferred in from Auburn, and she was the freshman, SEC freshman of the year at Auburn, and so she come over to play for Coach Deifel, and has been one of Arkansas's most consistent hitters last year, and then in this year. And then Wyckoff, that we talked about, a transfer in from Texas Tech, came over. So far, she's hitting. She's 10 of 27 with 10 runs, 1 home run with 5 RBIs, and she's hitting .370. So we've got several players with experience. Like Blake said, we have a ton of talented freshmen, but we have also got plenty of talented veterans that have transferred in, or they're second, third year players here. And that's a little bit different for softball, as there is the professional leagues, but it's more up and coming than like Major League Baseball right now. So you see more players being 3-4 year players in softball, which just Gordon Deifel has that great mix of talented freshmen and key veterans that are back, that's going to help this team continue to have success this year. Like we said, we're 13 going into this weekend, going into next week. After these wins, wouldn't be surprised to see us move up in the rankings. But like you said, I can't wait to see what this team does against, similar to baseball, the SEC softball is loaded this year. And plus we get to add Oklahoma to the mix as well. So that should be a fun, Oklahoma and Texas, those should be some fun series to see, starting this year and going down the stretch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited to see them in the SEC for sure. In baseball, we don't really get any breaks. We got a tough schedule ahead of us next weekend. So got to play a ranked team and another team that just beat a ranked team. So it's going to be a tough stretch next weekend. It
is. So, as we kind of get ready to wrap up for today, I'm a little bit longer show just because we had a jam-packed weekend of sports. Like we said, Arkansas baseball will finish up the series with Washington State tomorrow at noon. First pitch coming at noon. You'll see Bottle Cheese get the start on the mound tomorrow. And then we mentioned Arkansas basketball will be going on the road this week. Midweek game at Auburn, tip-off, 8 p.m., Yet another 8 p.m. tip-off for this.
Do we have to go?
Do what?
Do we have to go?
Unfortunately, we do. But, they get the 8 p.m. time slot again. They should just make that the unanimous Arkansas time slot, it seems like.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then on Saturday, you have Missouri coming to town with a 7 o'clock tip-off on Saturday. And then, like you mentioned, big weekend for baseball.
Oh, man, we play Dang, man, we play baseball and basketball at the same time next weekend.
Sounds like we need to have 2 different TVs set up.
Exactly.
And like you said, baseball, has a big weekend next weekend to head down to Arlington to take on 2 teams that they have some that left a bad taste in their mouth, between Kansas State and TCU, and then a Michigan team that could be a surprise this year, knocking off Virginia. And then softball will continue at it next weekend, and the Mary Another Collegiate Classic down in over in Cathedral City, California, heading to the West Coast to play some softball. They'll be taking on Thursday Rutgers. They'll have 2 games on Thursday. They'll be playing Rutgers and Cal State Fullerton, 11:30 and 2 o'clock. Then on Friday, they'll play Loyola Marymount. Saturday they'll be playing Baylor, And then second game on Saturday, will be playing UCLA. And then after that, they'll be back home for the Woo Pig Classic, where they'll have Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri State.
Okay. Yeah, that is UCLA. Or they used to have a good softball team. I don't know if they still have a good softball team now, but yeah, that sounds like a good, interesting matchup.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at D1 softball rankings compared to where we see baseball at, there's no shortage of SEC teams up there. I mean, you've got Texas at number 1, Florida at number 2, Oklahoma at number 3, UCLA there's at 4, Texas A&M 5, Tennessee 6, LSU 7, Texas Tech 8, Florida State 9, Oklahoma State 10, Georgia 11, Alabama 12, and Arkansas checking in at 13.
So UCLA is number 4. So that's going to be a
big time matchup.
I might tune in for that one. That's going to be a good one.
Exactly. So as we kind of get ready to wrap up here tonight, you guys, with this Razor recap, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. We'll be back at it this Thursday for a regularly scheduled episode, and we'll see what happens with baseball tomorrow and what happens on Wednesday in basketball, and we'll bring you all those results on Thursday. And until then, everybody have a great rest of your week. Have fun if you're in Arkansas with some of that winter weather we have coming up, and we'll see you then.